All right. We are going to review a video of Donald Trump, his announcement that he made approximately 2 weeks ago. Let's get me on this screen. All right. We're going to review a video that Donald Trump made, an announcement that he made about 2 weeks ago. Let's go ahead and start this. He was talking about some of the announcements that he had. Quickly, one of the things he was saying was that he's creating a space force. He located the space force over in Alabama, and he talks more about that, and he has a few other things to say. Let's listen to him.
Well, thank you very much. It's a very important day and important announcement.
Okay, I'm going to slow this down a little bit. Like many of us, I listen to it 2 times the speed. Okay.
Great friends of mine. I think I can say this group is every one of them. I rate a 10. I can't always say that, even if they're Republicans, and these are Republicans, great Republicans. So I want to thank you all for being here for this important announcement, 7 years in the making. As you know, this has been going on for a long period of time. And I am thrilled to report that the U.S. Space Command headquarters will move to the beautiful locale of a place called Huntsville, Alabama, forever to be known from this point forward as Rocket City. Okay, so Huntsville, Alabama, we love Alabama. I only won it by about 47 points. I don't think that influenced my decision, though, right? That didn't, right?
So Alabama has access to the Gulf of Mexico. So that's one of the reasons that it's a good location for the Space Force. Though Huntsville is quite away from the Gulf. Alabama itself borders the Gulf, so there will be access to the water. And even though we're talking about Space Force, you still need access to the water. So though the main, what he's talking about is going to be in Huntsville, Alabama, more than likely there's going to be a secondary station actually at the Gulf of Mexico. So let's listen.
But we had a lot of competition for this, and Alabama is getting it, Huntsville in particular. So congratulations, everybody. Katie, congratulations. This will result in more than 30,000 Alabama jobs and probably much more than that, and hundreds of millions of dollars of investment. And that's billions, because it can't be millions. It's billions and billions of dollars. Most importantly, this decision will help America defend and dominate the high frontier, as they call it. I want to thank Secretary Pete Hegseth. He's doing a fantastic job. And Secretary of the Air Force, Troy Mink. Troy, thank you very much. Great job you're doing, Troy. This is such a big deal. This is one that everybody wanted to know. What are you doing? I also want to thank Senators Katie Britt, and I want to give my condolences. Her grandmother just passed away. She was 100, right?
And she loves you, Mr. President.
Well, and she was very proud of you.
Thank you very much.
Very, very proud of you. So thank you, Katie.
Wonderful woman.
She must have been. To produce you indirectly, I can tell you she had to be. Tommy Tuberville, who's a great coach. And I won't say anything about what happened with Alabama football this weekend.
Let's leave that up.
But you're not used to that, right? You're not used to that. But Tommy, Auburn won, is right. So you're happy. Tommy's been a great senator, you know, and Chair Mike Rogers, thank you very much. All great friends, Robert Adderholt. Yeah. I created a thing called Space Force, so important. You know, we were losing the race in space very badly to China and to Russia. And now we're far and away #1 in space, and reestablish Space Com with a mission to protect American space assets and detect any threat to our homeland. We initially selected Huntsville for the Spacecom headquarters, yet those plans were wrongfully obstructed by the Biden administration. And as you know, they moved them to a different locale. And today we're moving forward with what we want to do and the place that we want to have this. And this will be there for hopefully hundreds of years. That's where it's going to be. I will say I want to thank Colorado. The problem I have with Colorado, one of the big problems, they do mail-in voting. They went to all mail-in voting. So they have automatically crooked elections. And we can't have that. When a state is for mail-in voting, that means they want dishonest elections, because that's what that means. So that played a big factor also.
I agree with him on mail-in voting allows for dishonest elections. I think that's That's pretty simple to understand. But now what he was saying that the United States is now, or has always been, but is now the leader of the space frontier, or basically winning the war in the air, dominating the air. He goes on later to say that the people who, or the nation that controls the air, controls the world. Are going to and always will be the greatest nation, because the airways, the waterways and the airways, but now, right now, it's the airways that you have to dominate in order to dominate the world. Let's hear him continue.
In Huntsville, Spacecom will play a key role in building the Golden Dome, as you know. That's going to be a big thing. Everybody wants to be a participant in it. Missile Defense Shield, we're going to be having a Golden Dome that the likes of which nobody's ever seen before. The finest, the best. And by the way, Canada called. They want to be a part of it, and that'll be great. But Canada wants very much to be included in that. And we're going to work something out with them, I hope. It will also ensure that our technological capabilities, of which we're way ahead of anybody else, there's nobody close, remain unmatched long into the future. So I'd like to ask Secretary Hegseth to say a few words. He was very much a part of it. And really, everybody behind me was. Every one of these people would call me and lobby me. I said, Katie, I don't want to talk to you anymore. I know what you want. She said, that's right, sir. That's what I want. And they got their way. So I just want to congratulate. These are really special people. They're politicians in many ways, but they're great patriots, I think. Even.
All right, I'm going to skip forward a little bit. What he's talking about is important. These are important announcements, and I'm going to continue. There's more that I'm going to show you. He eventually will sneak in something about the Moors, but he says it real subtly, to where you would question, well, really, did he say something about the Moors? But he did. But
even more so than politics. Your words, please.
Right time for the right reason. In your first administration, you established the Space Force at a time when we knew we had to be looking to that domain of space. You also reestablished Spacecom to ensure that priority was put in place, and you, through the Air Force, independently identified that Huntsville, Alabama was the right place to put it. For other reasons, in the next administration under Biden, they decided to move it somewhere else. Well, during that time, the DoD Inspector General, the Government Affairs Office, they did their own assessments, and where do they say Spacecom should go? Huntsville, Alabama. So what you're doing today, Mr. President, is restoring it to precisely where it should be, based on what the Space Force, the Air Force, your leadership believes will give us strategic advantage in the future. That is Huntsville, Alabama.
Like I said, it's important to have access to the water, because talking about Space Force, a lot of airplanes, military airplanes, will launch from what do you call that? A water-based vessel.
We are way ahead in space, but this will ensure we stay leaps and bounds ahead, because that's the most important domain. Whoever controls the skies will control the future of warfare.
And that is the truth. Whoever controls the skies will control the future of warfare. But I do want to go ahead and state this right now. These individuals, no one on this screen is an American. The only individual on this screen that's an American is myself. These are all invaders. They're all from Europe. Somewhere in Europe. We'll continue, but this is a hegemony. Basically, they shouldn't be here. They'll call themselves Americans, but they are not Americans.
And Mr. President, today you're ensuring that happens. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Katie, would you like to say something?
And President Donald Trump, they've changed his family changed his name from Drumpf to Trump. And people who change their name always question that when people change their names and use fake names, like Jermaine Shoemake, people like that, or the other individual, Sanders, I forgot his first name, somebody Sanders, those two individuals that was in Hidden Colors, where they basically got famous talking about the Moors, and then later claimed that they're not Moors and claimed that the Americans aren't Moors. More than likely they were hired by groups of people like this, individuals who are a part of the government or some type of government entity, but not my government, not the government of the Americans, but the hegemony, the government that is forced, and it's not a government, the occupation that is forced upon us. So I always question people who change their names and come up with a new history for themselves, and you can't search who they actually are. They don't want to tell you what their real name is, and and then they want to be the spokespersons for the Americans. I always question that. So even Donald Trump, who's changed his name from Drumpf, at least his family has had, generation or two ago or three, I don't know how long ago. But I always question when people change their name. It's a very interesting thing. Let's go ahead. We're going, oh, well, I do want to say Donald Trump actually knows who we are. Let me actually pull up. I'm going to interrupt this broadcast to pull up some other words that Donald Trump has said. So let's stop sharing that. And it's in here. Share this screen right here. So I made a playlist. I'm going to play this list. It's like 6 short videos, but you'll see the relevance as we connect it with this video.
Okay, I'm an American. They call us Black people, but Black people just means that we're a people of no land and no nation. That's so.
Yeah,
I'll get back.
yeah.
I've said this before. People will come from 10,000 miles away, 10,000 miles away, come here to America and be like, "Where's all the Americans?"
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll be like, "Hey, I'm an American." Like, no, you are a Black people. Like, well, man, who are you? Okay, but anyway.
Speaking, I might not have. Drumpf was also speaking. I might not have the tab up. Drumpf was also speaking about him doing a mass deportation. I can just look it up real quick. And he said that it's an invasion and that it's going to be the largest deportation. It's going to be the largest deportation in American history, right? But he didn't include himself. Yeah, get the fuck out of here. Hold on one sec.
Reservations that you've approved, you, sir, in your great wisdom have approved. I will tell you right now, they don't look like Indians to me, and they don't look like the Indians. Now, maybe we say politically correct or not politically correct. They don't look like Indians to me, and they don't look like Indians to Indians, and a lot of people are laughing at it, and you're telling how.
All right. So I just wanted to let you hear what he had to say. Wanted to let you hear what he had to say about the people who are called Americans, or what they call Native Americans, or what they misclassify as Indians. So he was saying that the people who are currently classified as Native Americans do not look like the American people, the people who are the indigenous people of America. And this is important because there's a difference between who is American and who is not.
The other thing is, I'd like to know how many of these people are even Indians to begin with, because I've looked at them. And I have to tell you something, they don't look like Indians to me. And I've told a couple of them who came into my office, I said, I believe I have more Indian blood in my veins than you have, and I have none. And they laugh. They think it's a joke.
All right, let me show you what Mr. Obama, who is not an American, also said. Just give me a moment. Let me show you who the people who say that they're the indigenous Americans, what they look like. Hold on. Can you see this person? Who the fuck is this?
Okay, Mark Charles, yeah.
This person looks nothing like me.
Vacadanasla, the Tohiguni Basichin, Sin Vacadanasa Che, the Tolachini Dasanella. In our Navajo.
Do you see this guy? You see that guy? He says he's a Native American. This guy right here with the hat.
You're very, very special people.
Slow this down a little bit. All right, talk.
You were here long before any of us were here. Although we have a representative in Congress who they say was here a long time ago. They call her Pocahontas. But you know what? I like you.
You see these two people? These two people have albinism. They're on the spectrum, the albinism spectrum. They would be considered albinoid. You see Donald Trump? He is a full albino. You see how similar they look in complexion? They can't survive here in this climate. They did not come from this place. Let me let them. All right. So we're going to go back to Donald Trump's speech that we were just reviewing from approximately 2 weeks ago. And again, Donald Trump knows who the real Americans are. He is very clear who the real Americans are. And even in this broadcast that hold on, let me remove that. In that broadcast that he's making this announcement, he hints to, first he calls us black people. He calls us black people, knowing that that is a hate crime to call us black people. He's well aware that it's a hate crime to call us black people, but he does it anyway. Then he calls us African American right after he calls us black people in this the speech that we're reviewing. And then directly after he calls us black people, then he calls us African Americans. Then he talks about somebody with the last name Moore from Baltimore. This is how they do their coded language, where they're letting the people who are aware enough, they're letting us know, we know exactly who you are. We know you're not black people. We know that you're not African American. We know that you're actually the Americans, and we know that you're Moors, but we're going to keep playing with the speech. We're going to use our speech in such a way that we play in your face and call you names that you are not, call you names that are hate crimes to call you, and then right afterwards we'll state the actual nationality that you are. Again, we are the Americans and not the individuals who are here in an invasion. So let's pick up where we left off. Again, it's a little bit later on in the video that he's talking about, that he actually mentions this about calling us black people, then calling us African American, and then stating some more from Baltimore. Let's listen to what he has to say about his announcements.
Mr. President, we are grateful for your leadership on this and restoring space.
I'm sure what she has to say is almost important, but it wasn't very important. So I'm going to skip her.
Please.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. This is a great day for our country, not just for our state of Alabama.
Also,
we need to move more. Wall in Huntsville, Alabama, Redstone Arsenal. We have 40,000 people there. We have the FBI there. We have missile defense there. We have NASA, Blue Origin, and
actually what he's saying is important. I'm going to listen to his words.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Tommy, please.
yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. This is a great day for our country, not just for our state of Alabama. We need help in our military. We need to catch up. And as Secretary has said, we're not behind in space, but we know where we're at, and we need to expound on that. Now, this move will save the taxpayers $480 million. It's not going to cost more. It's going to cut $480 million. We have the plans intact. It'll be behind a secure wall in Huntsville, Alabama, at Redstone Arsenal. We have 40,000 people there. We have the FBI there. We have missile defense there. We have NASA, Blue Origin and SpaceX. It is the perfect place for Space Command. I would tell you today, and again, I've spoke with the president for the last 3 or 4 years about this. If I thought it needed to go somewhere else because I understand the security of our country, I'd be for that. But the best place for Space Command is Huntsville, Alabama, because what we have and what it means to this country is going to be so important. So thank you, Mr. President, for this. And we look forward to building a huge Space Command and having the Donald J. Trump Space Command Center in Huntsville, Alabama.
Sure. Well, Mr. President, thank you. I'll be very brief here. I lobbied the president hard to put it in Ohio, but he said these people behind us, these Alabamas, are just too powerful and too persuasive. And so it's in Alabama. But as Tommy said, this is exactly the right place for Space Force and Space Command. I think Americans ought to appreciate the fact that you can't win the battle of the future unless you control the skies. The cyber security, the communications, the entire infrastructure of the battle in the 21st century will be in space. So it was a visionary move in the first administration for the president to set up Space Force. And I think an equally visionary move to make sure that Space Force is right where it should be in Huntsville, Alabama. Thank you, sir.
What he said is true.
Gentlemen, anybody want to say anything? Would you like to say?
Mr. President, another promise made, another promise kept. You think about it, Redstone Arsenal is critical to national security. The president said when you were the 45th president, let's do what's right for national security. And today, that's exactly what we're doing. It's not because of this or that. It's because it's right for national security. You think of the 21 categories that were evaluated to determine what was best for national security. All indicators pointed back to Huntsville, Alabama, and Redstone Arsenal. We have the right people at the right place at the right time. Mr. President, on behalf of the people of the 5th Congressional District and all of Alabama, thank you for keeping your word. Absolutely.
Again, logistically, Huntsville, or particularly, I don't know about Huntsville, but Alabama is a very strategic location.
Anybody?
Let me just say, Mr. President, I want to say thank you. And thank you for doing this because it was the right thing to do. All the when they looked at all the numbers, Huntsville was the place to go. And like you say, it was unfortunately pulled out, but you made it right. So I want to just say thank you again for a grateful nation and to the state of Alabama. We're very grateful. Thank you and God bless. Thank you.
Okay, it sounds like it's going to be more of that. We don't need to hear them just tell him that he made a good decision. I'm telling you, he made a good decision on that. Okay.
So thank you all very much. You are going to leave me alone now. You're not going to call me anymore and talk about this subject, right? You promise? They'll start something else. But I just want to congratulate you. It's a
Again, none of them are Americans. I want to reiterate that.
very big deal. When you come out and when you leave the room, you'll see that we just over the last few minutes literally shot out a boat, a drug carrying boat, a lot of drugs in that boat. And you'll be seeing that and you'll be reading about that. It just happened moments ago. And our great general, head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, who's been so incredible, including what took place in Iran, knocking out potential nuclear power for a long time to come. I think within a month they would have had it. We didn't do what we did. But he gave us a little bit of a briefing. And you'll see. And there's more where that came from. We have a lot of drugs pouring into our country, coming in for a long time. And we just, these came out of Venezuela and coming out very heavily from Venezuela.
The drugs that are coming out of Venezuela, again, it's not the Venezuelans. Again, it's the Europeans who are there in Venezuela that have come to occupy the land. And they've turned all the Venezuelans into people who look like this. You see this, that woman on the side that I skipped because whatever she was needing to say. But that's now what the Venezuelans look like, where they used to look like me, my complexion. All of the Americas has always looked like me until the Europeans came and raped all the women. Again, we're not supposed to say that word on YouTube for whatever reason. But they raped all the women and turned them and turned our people into a different color. Basically committing genocide on the South Americans. And they're attempting to do it here in America too, in North America, where they're trying to convince our women to, well, they're doing a great job of it actually, convince our women to mate with the Europeans. The women are the key to the nation. You can't have other nationalities of people mating with your women. And more importantly, you can't have this particular nationality of people. This particular nationality of people, they don't have any melanin. And there's nothing against, like, so we have albinos, and the brown people, we have albinos where their parents are brown, but they've they have albinism. But this group of people, the Europeans, are a nation of albinos. They're the albino of whatever type of people that they are. And I don't have a problem with Europeans in particular, but I'm speaking on the genetics and speaking on just the politics. It's not all the Europeans that are doing something necessarily wrong, but it's the nation of people. The Bible says that we're fighting against principalities or nations. These are nation states that have come here, occupied our land, are trying to genocide us by taking our women. Again, a person with melanin mating with and having a child with a European, Europeans are albinos, a European, that does not genocide the Native Americans or the brown people. It doesn't even genocide the Europeans, because albinism is a unnatural state. You want to come out of albinism. You don't intentionally reproduce albinism. If somebody has albinism, that's just what it is. But you don't put two albinos together to intentionally make your child an albino. I think that that's actually the incorrect thing to do, and it's actually an evil thing to do, because it's not necessary. All the elements. I used to work at the university, at one of the universities of Louisville, at the University of Louisville, and we were studying, when I was 13 years old, we were studying type 1 diabetes. And the only way that we could study this type 1 diabetes is that we had to take these rats, albino rats, but they had to be induced. The albinism was induced. It's not a naturally occurring thing. So basically, they grafted out the albinism out of the brown or the black rat to make them brown, then to make them albino, grafted out the albinism, and then had the albino rats mate to create a big population of albinos. That's the only way that there's a big population of albinos, is that it's actually somebody forced this, or somebody is intentionally making this happen. This isn't a natural occurrence. So, all the nations that have very little melanin, there was a war that went on in those nations to kill out all of the brown people and then graft out the albinism. And this is the incorrect thing to do. What ends up happening, as I was talking about this, the experimentation and the studies work that I was doing. So we were trying to determine the cause, not the cause, but the cure for type 1 diabetes. But the only way we could study it is to create albino rats and then induce induce type 1 diabetes, or something that was similar to type 1 diabetes. But here's the thing. So that was back when I was 13. I was getting paid for it, a small stipend. And I did that study for, I think, 3 years. But I actually know what the cure is.Ey're still looking for the cure. I have friends, well, not friends, but associates that are doctors, and they're still working on that one project, attempting to create a cure for albinism. But the cure is quit producing albinos intentionally. Melanin is the cure of type 1 diabetes. It's melanin. And some people are going to say, oh, actually, people with melanin can get type 1 diabetes too. Okay, actually do your research, Google it, and see what the numbers are. Study it, see if you're sure about what you're talking about. The cure for type 1 diabetes and the cure for many, many neurological ailments, or many ailments, is melanin. You don't intentionally reproduce albinism. Eventually, we're all going to be brown anyway. Eventually, we're going to look like me, eventually. And it's not going to be a very long time. But that's because the natural state is to have melanin. You have to go above and beyond to create a population of albinos. It takes a lot of work. It actually takes what they call white supremacy to create this large population of albinos. And it's a sensitive subject, because I have friends that have albinism that from brown people. And I know that it's a sensitive subject. I know a lot of Europeans. I know it's just they do not want you to know that they're albinos, but they know that they're albinos. In fact, they come from a place that used to be called Albion. They have, if you look on the map, and you'll find, look on the map in the UK, you'll find a lot of areas that are called Albine or something with those first letters, ALB, some vowel and then N, and maybe some vowel on the end of the word. When you study languages, and particularly when you study Latin, you know that the vowels are interchangeable. So if you see those consonants together, you know that it actually is the same word. So they are aware that they're albinos. Look, can you see my mouse? Can you see this guy? They are well aware of their genetic state. This guy, and then you see her. She has a small mixture of my blood, a very small mixture. That's why she's just a hint darker than the rest of them. She has a little more melanin, and you see her hair is darker. Her hair is darker than his hair, than the President Trump's hair. You see this guy's hair is really dark. You see, and you see the eye ridge and the eyes, and there you can see that he has a mixture of our blood too. This guy here. But again, there's albinism is a genetic state of deficiency. And again, they're well aware. Again, there's what is that land? It's called it's something with that means albinism. That's over in Europe. It is. Hold on. I want to get the name of this location before I continue, because it's right on the tip of my tongue. Again, to go to show that they know who they are, and they are fully aware of something that they don't want you to be aware of. And that's the reason that the reason they call themselves white is so that we don't call them albino. The reason they call us black is so that we don't call ourselves American. The word game is very powerful. Very, very powerful. What is that country? Albania. Albania. A-L-B vowel N vowel. That's referring to albinism. This is the land of people who have albinism. Most people who have albinism, they can really only survive in the cold climates above a certain parallel where it snows real heavily. Otherwise, like these individuals, they can't live here in America. Obviously, they're not American. Even the people who call themselves Native American, you see like this woman here, that if you can see my pointer, they have to wear sunscreen. Well, what about when there wasn't sunscreen? Were they over here in America? What were they doing? Hiding under trees or something? In caves? What caves? We do have caves in America, but they didn't come from the caves of America. They came from the caves of Europe. They can't survive here. And the people who are calling themselves indigenous are obviously of the same albino nation as these Europeans. They're just Europeans cosplaying as Americans. Okay, let's go ahead and allow him to continue speaking.
Things are coming out of Venezuela, so we took it out, and you'll get to see that after this meeting is over. Do you have any questions, please? Yeah, please.
Senator Cumberland talked about the cost savings
Yeah.
associated with this announcement. Can you talk about the strategic benefits by having Space Force Command headquartered in Huntsville?
Okay, again, not a single person in that room is an American. Not a single person. You see, this one is some type of mix of someone with melanin and a European. And that's fine, but none of these people are American. Again, I'm the only American on this screen. But these people are talking about the politics of North America, and they're calling this area in North America the United States. And they call it a corporation. It's not just the people, it's not just the Moors. Again, the Americans are Moors. America means more. Again, with the vowels are interchangeable. You have the word America is AMER. The MR is referring to more. Again, MER is more. It's the English version of more. MER, it refers to the water, just as more refers to the water. MOOR refers to the water. MOOR, it's hard to exactly say where that originates, but MOOR, there's a such thing as mooring a boat, where you tie the rope, you tie the boat to the dock, or a ship or a vessel to the dock. Mooring is referring to traveling the waters, because the brown people have traveled the waters for the entire time that we have been in existence, and we existed first. And then eventually one of our people, a group of our people decided to create a heavy population of albinos and put them into the cold climates above a certain parallel. And these are what we're calling the Europeans and certain Asians. And this has been thousands of years of a war. I don't know exactly what the motivation was to create a large population of albinos, but it's not just it's like, you have to know that the only way for a population of albinos to exist is to kill the brown people, because if the brown people mix with the albinos, there will no longer be albino. They'll then just be brown. They'll still exist. And that's the thing. It won't be genocide because they'll still exist. It's just they'll be brown. But the only way they can hold this type of power is to be able to be visually identified separately from the rest of the world. So, I mean, if they were just another brown group of people, eventually they would just blend in with everybody else. You wouldn't know why they should be in power over everybody else, because they look like everybody else. It'd be easy to mix them up. But the Europeans they stick out the most. They're the most unnatural state. They're at the most unnatural state. They are the most albinized of all people on earth. Of all life on earth, they are the most albinized of all life on earth. So they stick out, severely. But then you can use that you stick out, and that you can't really become you can't really build a population over a certain size as albinism, because the genetics, it just doesn't work like that. Eventually, if you keep mixing albinos, after a few generations, they will be, what's that word? Infertile. So they have to inject a small amount of melanin into their population, and then mix it then kind of mix back into mix the albino back in, or basically it's still a form of grafting out the albinism.
Well, it just works because we have so much else there. And having a central, you could call it a central command, but it really is a command station. Also, even locationally, where it is, and when you think about flying distances.
He has him and her, they have the most mixture out of this particular screen of melanin outside of the particular type of albinos that Europeans are. Again, all life creates albinism. The Europeans are the albinos of that group of people. Then there are albinos of the Asians. There's albinos of other, groups of people. But these are the albinos of a certain type of people, and they have some, Neanderthal mix. And then since they've mixed with a lot of other people have that mixture also of Neanderthal, but not as much, and not as large a percentage of the blood of the Europeans. Which I'm not saying anything. I'm not necessarily saying something negative about the Europeans. Again, I'm talking about biology.
You can save a half an hour as fast as some of these planes go and things go, and even the rockets go, if you can save by having the best location. So we went out, as you know, to experts, and we had 4 different groups of experts. They all said this was the best location. I also loved it from the standpoint, I know the people of Alabama, they are great people, work hard, and there's no games, and they're very proud of it. And I would say they fought harder for it than anybody else also. A lot of states, 5 states really wanted it. But
the only thing that matters is the strategic location.
They wanted it more. And I kid you not when I say that these people, they spoke to me a lot. That's all they wanted to talk about. They didn't want to talk about the weather. They only wanted to talk about moving to this location, moving to Alabama, Huntsville in particular. So we're honored to do it. They really wanted it badly, and they got it. Peter?
President Trump, something completely different, but about a big viral social media trend over the weekend. How did you find out over the weekend that you were dead? You see that?
No.
People didn't see it for a couple of days. 1.3 million user engagements as of Saturday morning about your demise.
I was actually concerned about that because we already have this hegemony, right? We already are occupied by this foreign entity, but while this entity is in existence and while Trump is the president, we don't need him to die. We don't need him to die in office. That would be chaos, and we need less chaos. We need him to stay alive while he's in office and have a peaceful transfer of power back to the actual Americans.
Really? I didn't see that. I have heard it's sort of crazy, but last week I did numerous news conferences, all successful. They went very well, like this is going very well. And then I didn't do any for 2 days, and they said there must be something wrong with him. Biden wouldn't do him for months. You wouldn't see him. And nobody ever said there was ever anything wrong with him, and we know he wasn't in the greatest of shape. No, I heard that. I get reports. Now, you knew I did an interview that lasted for about an hour and a half with somebody, and everybody saw that was on one of your competitors. I did numerous shows and also did a number of truths, long truths, I think pretty poignant truths. No, I was very active over the weekend. They also knew I went out to visit some people at the club that I own pretty nearby on the Potomac River. And no, I've been very active actually over the weekend. I didn't hear that one. That's pretty serious. Well, it's fake news. It's just it's so fake. That's why the media has so little credibility. I knew they were saying like, is he okay? How's he feeling? What's wrong? I said, I just left. And it's also sort of a longer weekend, it's Labor Day weekend. So I would say a lot of people know I was very active this Labor Day. I had heard that, but I didn't hear it to that extent. Go ahead, Peter.
Something else. We know that this country has a huge problem with school shootings. You've said that you're open to sending the National Guard pretty much anywhere. Would you ever consider sending an armed National Guardsman to every school?
And at the time I was listening to this this broadcast live, I actually had done I did a podcast while this was live, reacting to the live broadcast. At the time and right now, I said this individual here, what he said is absolutely stupid. But no, the solution because he said, should we send a National Guard to every school in the United States, something along those lines. It's a stupid comment, but I don't think this guy is stupid. I think he just needed to make the comment because it's a question that other people had. And no, my response, which is the response, is no. The teachers need to be armed. The teachers who are competent enough to be armed should be armed, and of course, it should be concealed, and it shouldn't cause any type of disturbance. Nobody should know that you are armed. But no, this is absolute foolish. It's a foolish comment, or question. It's a stupid question.
Well, we have a big problem with school shooting, but we also have thousands and thousands of schools that run perfectly. You know, they talk about you can do things construction-wise, and that's really I think nobody knows more about construction than me. You can build the construction doors. You can build what they call safety doors, where they lock on the outside, the inside, and every place else. Well, but if one of these lunatics happens to get through, then the police can't get in. Then they're looking for keys all over the place. And it takes.
One thing I like about Donald Trump is that he doesn't even pretend to be stupid. And I really appreciate that, because I have a real difficulty working with dumb people. And I appreciate people who are intelligent and don't hide their intelligence. So I do appreciate Trump for that.
Takes a lot of disadvantages to doing, spending billions and billions of dollars and actually making it safer in some way for some of these lunatics that we're dealing with. But I don't think so. I've thrown out the concept. We have great teachers that love our children. The parents love the children. Teachers love the children too. And if you took a small percentage of those teachers that were in the military, that were distinguished in the military, that were in the National Guard, et cetera, and you let them carry, that's something that a lot of people like. I sort of liked it. It have to be studied, but they're trained.
It's the only solution, aside from turning back the power to the Americans.
They know about weapons. You can't do it with every teacher because most teachers don't know, and But I always thought that would be an alternative. But it just we've had a lot of instances. Other countries have also. They have different kinds of problems than we have, but we do have there's something going on. And it's a bad thing. Yes, please.
Have you spoken with President Putin in the past week? Have you spoken with President Putin?
Yeah, I don't want to. I have learned things that will be very interesting. I think in the next few days you'll find out.
Consequences if there isn't some type of announcement of a meeting with President Putin and President Zelensky?
Yeah,
and what could those consequences
We're going to
be?
see what happens.
So there were brown people all over the earth. The whole earth was brown. Again, it was a very, how do you say? It was a concerted effort to create this amount of albinos. It's amazing that it was pulled off. It took a lot of killing of brown people in order to create this large of a population of albinos. So then the people of Russia, if you look at them, Vladimir Putin. So Vladimir Putin is claiming to be of a brown origin. He's claiming to be a Vladimir, and he's not a Vladimir. Vladimir, Lattimore, it's all the same thing. So the Vladimirs were actually the rulers of Russia. And then Vladimir Putin has taken the name, saying that he's descended from them. And perhaps maybe, down the line, 1,000 generations ago, he was brown, but I don't think so. I don't think he descends from the Vladimirs at all.
Happens. We're going to see what they do and what happens. I'm watching it very closely. Last week, they lost 7,000 between the two countries, 7,313 soldiers to be somewhat exact, for no reason whatsoever. And they're Russian and they're Ukrainian, but they're soldiers. I want to see it end. Yep.
Have you decided you're definitely going to send National Guard troops to Chicago?
And the Vladimirs they look like Ethiopians with afros. If you look at the pictures, that you just Google it on, look at the Wikipedia and keep going back to see who the predecessors were, and just keep looking who was in power before whichever person you land on, and just keep looking up the Vladimir line, and you'll see there are dark brown people. Vladimir Putin is more than likely not a Vladimir. He's just stealing the name like all the Europeans do. They go to all these countries, all these nations, and say they're they say that they're of that nation. Like these Europeans over here calling themselves American. It's preposterous. It's absolute nonsense. They are not Americans. They are not Australians. They are not Africans. They are not Russians. They're not North or South Americans. They're not Canadians. Again, is America. They're not from any of these places. They come from a certain parallel, above a certain parallel, where it's very, very, very cold. With all the other albino creatures, like the polar bears. The polar bear is just an albino brown bear. But the polar bear can't exist in the Congo. Okay, what would a polar bear have to do to exist in the Congo? What would these Europeans who have the same genetics as far as having albinism, what would they have to do to exist in the Congo? They would have to make it cold. They would have to cover themselves away from the sun. They would only be able to come out at certain times of day. What would they have to do to exist here in America? They would have to cover themselves from the sun. They would have to wear hats, these large hats, brimmed hats, to where the sun doesn't directly hit their skin. They'd have to wear sunscreen to where there's this dark cover that doesn't allow the sun to penetrate so far into the skin. They would have to make it cold. They would have to spray chemtrails. If they stopped spraying chemtrails, the Europeans would not be able to exist here for another week. If they stopped chemtrails right now, they would not be able to exist in America for one more week. They would have to make the place cold. What would a polar bear have to do if it made its way here to America to exist? They would have to make the place cold. And they would have to make it unhospitable for the brown bears.
I didn't say when, but the answer is, look, Chicago is very interesting because I watched Pritzker get up and say we don't need help, we're safe. But 2 weeks ago, they had 6 people murdered, and they had 24 people hit by bullets.
Being able to say certain words is so crucial because murder is different than kill. The word murder means that it was, what do you call it? It was you thought about it before. I'm trying to think of the word. I'm going to look it up. But it means that you actually thought about it, and then you did the action. It's going to bug me being able to think of that word right now. But it means something different. The word RAPE is something different than sex. You have to be able to say words in order to convey what you're actually talking about. Instead of saying all these play words, you'll hear a lot of YouTubers right now, they're saying smex. They'll say smexual small because they're not allowed to say the actual words. So now we're confused as to what the hell they're talking about. And then you'll see people giggling and laughing when we're talking about a very serious matter. And so, I mean, this is a type of warfare to not allow us. They call it freedom of speech, but I mean, this is even more than freedom of speech. We're not even able to communicate. But on this same platform on YouTube, look at the songs that actually use that word, the MURDER word. It's on the same platform. They're not demonetized. They're not canceled. Their channels hasn't been taken down. And there's a lot of those songs because it's a part of the programming. It's a part of not just the programming, it's a part of the war against people who don't have albinism. they have our artists, brown artists, they write the songs, the occupying force writes these destructive songs and has melanated people performing these songs and telling us not to just kill each other, but to murder each other. Two different words, two different concepts, two different actions. And they talk about RAPE. They don't just talk about it, they talk about doing it and convincing us to do it. And then we can't, when we actually are trying to address it, we have a hard time because we don't know which word we're allowed to say. Again, this war is multifaceted, but again, it's being done by people who are not American.
Bullets. Last week, as you know, it was 7 people, 24 people hit, and 7 people died. And then over the last 2 days, that was the crown jewel. They had, I guess, 9 or 10 killed, and 50 hit with bullets. And you have this governor, Get Up, who's a terrible governor. Probably he and Gavin Newsom would be probably the 2 worst and most naive. They're naive.
Premeditated is the word I was looking for. Premeditation is the difference between those 2 actions.
They're naive or they're very untruthful. And he'll say, we don't want any protection. We don't need. So in the last 3 weeks, he's lost almost 20 people killed. There's no place in the world, including you can go to Afghanistan, you can go to places that you would think of. They don't even come close to this. Chicago is a hellhole right now.
Why is it a hellhole? Why is it a hellhole? It's because we're under occupation and we can't control our own people. We would have solved this problem a long time ago. I can solve the problem, but the issue is that there's an occupying force here that stops me from doing things and says it's illegal if I take action. It's illegal if I take a group of people and take action and stop the Americans who are committing crimes against Americans. It's because there's a occupying force that is in the way, that's calling themselves the police. And I don't know what it is about this guy, but I don't know. But you know, they're calling themselves the police, and they're calling themselves the government, and they're calling themselves the politicians. And the authority. So in order to solve the problem, we would actually need the interference to be out of the way. So why is it a hellhole? You know, he's not telling the whole story.
Baltimore is a hellhole right now. Parts of Los Angeles are terrible. If we didn't put out the fires, and I mean the other fires, the bullet fires, they didn't do a good job with. They should have had the water coming down, like I said. You know, we had to release the water. We had to go in and release the water to LA. It's so badly run. But if I didn't send the National Guard into Los Angeles, I would be making an announcement today. I'd be talking about Huntsville, and I'd simultaneously be saying, by the way, the Olympics is not coming to Los Angeles. If we didn't do that, and even the sheriff, the top law enforcement person in Los Angeles said, we could not have handled it without them. So that's what he said.
Make your mind up on Chicago, though?
Well, we're going in. I didn't say when. We're going in.
And I don't disagree with him going in. Since we're under occupation, the only entity that can solve the problem at this moment is the government. And because we have an occupying force from somewhere else calling themselves the government, it has to be them to go in. It has to be the government to go and solve this problem. Because again, if I take my group of people and go solve the problem, then who comes in my way? Who stops me? Who's going to be the ones who stop me? It's going to be these people who are from somewhere else, who aren't American, telling me what's the law and what I can or can't do on my land. So it really has to be the government, whether it's the occupying force or whether it's us. It has to be the government that solves this problem. So I'm not against they're saying Trump is going into these places, but it's the government that are going, the occupying force that are going into these places and forcing the Americans to behave differently. You know, this is a crazy situation, you know, because it again, the problem is that the occupying force is here to begin with. So they create the issue and then force themselves to be the solution. And make sure that the Americans can't solve the problems. But ultimately, the issue is that we're calling people American that are not American. And we are not calling ourselves Americans, or the people who are melanated. I know I have people who watch me who are from other nations, and that's fine. And it's not to cause necessarily separation, but I'm speaking from the advantage or the viewpoint of an actual American from America, inside America.
When you lose, look, I have an obligation. This isn't a political thing. I have an obligation.
It is a political thing.
We lose when 20 people are killed over the last 2.5 weeks, and 75 are shot with bullets. So let me tell you a little story about a place called DC, District of Columbia, right here where we are. It's now a safe zone. We have no crime.
As in, it's not hard to solve this problem. We could have solved my group of people could solve the problem easily, but again, there's somebody actively in our way.
It's in such great shape. You can go and actually walk with your children, your wife, your husband. You can walk right down the middle of the street. You're not going to be shot, Peter. You're safe. Everyone likes you anyway. They probably wouldn't do it. But it's so dangerous. And there are people in this audience that you've suffered greatly. There are people in this audience that have been mugged and hurt badly, and they don't want to talk about it. Maybe you were very brave in talking about it. You made quite an impression on a lot of people. I appreciate it. But there were other people in this room that have been hurt very badly just walking down the street in D.C. Washington, D.C. is a safe zone right now. It's a safe city. The restaurants are open. They're booming. You can't get a restaurant. New restaurants are announcing that they're going to be open. This took place in 12 days. Now it's 15 days, but 3 days ago, it became what's known as a safe zone. It's a safe city. And this city was really bad, really, really bad. We took 1,600 people out, hardcore criminals that will not be coming back anytime soon. And we're very proud of it, to have.
That's a whole lot of people.
Have our nation's capital lose every week. It's like many years where every single week somebody was killed for many, many, many consecutive weeks. This went on for years. And then we had last week, it was announced that nobody was killed last week. And I made that announcement in front of a very
Again, the solution is actually pretty easy. Again, I could solve this issue in a very short period of time, the same way he solved the issue in a very short period of time, except he doesn't have an entity standing in his way.
Distinguished leader of a country. And I'm saying proudly, ladies and gentlemen.
Again, I don't know what it is about this guy. I don't know.
Gentlemen, nobody was killed in Washington, D.C. this week. He looked at me like, what's that all about? I said, yeah, we have a little bit of a crime problem, and we don't have a crime problem in Washington anymore. And the mayor has been very helpful, and the police commission has been very helpful, and it's been a great team. And I would love
the guy to the right. If you can see my mouse, I don't know. It's just something.
Love to have Governor Pritzker call me. I'd gain respect for him and say, we do have a problem, and we'd love you to send in the troops, because you know what? The people, they have to be protected. I saw today.
It might be because he has a different color suit that he's standing out, or the hair, or the face. I don't know. It's something.
On one of your networks, not a friendly network, except really the opposite, I would say, very unfriendly network. And they interviewed about 12 people on this morning. Most of them were African-American, who were black.
There we go. There we go with the bullshit. You said most of them were who? He said most of them were African-American. And then he said black. Those are two different things. What's black? Do I have something black here? Where's my screen? See this? This is black. What is, hold on. Un momento.
People on this way, the opposite, I would say, very unfriendly network. And they interviewed about 12 people on this morning. Most of them were African American, they were black. And they were saying, please, please, please let the president.
So there is a such thing as an African. There is such thing as an American. An African and an American can mix. And perhaps you could call them an African American, I guess. But that's not a nationality. We are Americans. And even with the small percentage of African blood that we do have, we have more American blood than anything. We are Americans. Everybody has a mixture of something. But the people who look like me, the people that we call, what he keeps calling African American and black, we're American. Oh, here, let me actually, I'm going to remove him from the screen. He's about to mention something about, he's going to call us, he's going to say something. He just said African, he called us African American, then he called us black in the same sentence. And then about 3 sentences later, he's going to talk about a Moore from Baltimore, some man named Moore from Baltimore. But let me show you this screen here. This is from when I was over in Louisville, Kentucky, at the library. I made it, let's see. I was over in Louisville, Kentucky, and I was talking about why we should not call ourselves black. And the video, you know, it has a little bit of length, but it's important that I make it very clear. Black is hate speech. Calling us black is hate speech. It is a crime. And President Trump, stop calling me black. It is a crime. We are not black. He knows that we're not black. He knows that we're the indigenous Americans. He's already stated it several times in previous years. So let me go ahead and play this little bit of a clip.
So
I think I have this going fast at two times the speed. So I'll put it at 1.5 times the speed. Again, I'm saying why we shouldn't call ourselves black. In this presentation that I did over at Louisville Library, at the public library, the main library. I was speaking kind of low because you can't yell at the library. But again, I'm reading out the definitions of black. None of the definitions means an American. Just listen to this.
first off, we are the Americans, and there's just one type of American. Those are the people who've been here for thousands of years. And let's see. Here.
Okay, you see, I have here the words that we should not be calling ourselves. I'm going to allow me to speak on this particular presentation. I'm going to allow it to play out, but I'm going to read these words that we should not be calling ourselves. We should not be calling ourselves black. We should not be calling ourselves colored. We should not be calling ourselves people of color. We should not be calling ourselves Negro. We should not be calling ourselves nigger. We should not be calling ourselves nigga. We should not be calling ourselves melanated. We should not be calling ourselves African American. We should not be calling ourselves Black American. We should not be calling ourselves Moorish American. We should not be calling ourselves Indigenous American. We should not be calling ourselves Native American. We should not be calling ourselves Indian American. We should not be calling ourselves Aboriginal American. And we should not be calling ourselves Slave Americans. And these are all terms that a portion of us use. We should only be calling ourselves American. or if we need a modifier, we're North American. I'm going to go ahead and allow this to play. Well, actually, before I allow this to play, there's a reason why we shouldn't be calling ourselves. I'm going to go through these. So we shouldn't be calling ourselves black because we're literally not the color black. We should not be calling ourselves colored because the ED, it refers to us coming from a state of albinism into color, as in it's basically stating, if we call ourselves colored, it's stating that the natural state is albinism, and that people who have melanin became colored, basically that Europeans were this word, it means a whole bunch. It means a lot. There's let's see, it is denoting that, or it's basically stating that the first people on Earth were albinos, and that people evolved to have color, and they became colored. They got colored from the state of albinism. The same thing with the word melanated. The ED is referring to people starting off on Earth, that everybody was albino, and that people became melanated, that we came from albinism and obtained melanin, where it's actually the exact opposite. The natural state is to have melanin, and people were grafted out. The albinism was grafted out, as in people became albinized. Okay, people of color. Should I explain that? The word Negro, nigger, and nigga is all the same word. Again, with language, it's the consonants that you concentrate on, particularly in Latin. Negro is just the Spanish word for nigger. It's the Spanish word for black. Hold on one moment. Okay, Negro is the Spanish word for black. Nigger is just a variation of this word. Again, look at the vowels. You just change the E for an I, you add a G, and you put an E in between the G and the R, and you change the O, and now you have the same word. Negro is obviously the same word as nigger. Nigger is obviously the same word as nigga. And I'm not even saying that these words are necessarily bad. We have the Niger River, we have Nigeria. It's all the same word. It's all the same word, but we are not that. We're not black. It all goes back to a color, and it goes back to something else. But we should not be calling ourselves any of these things. Negro, nigger, nigga is all the same word. African American, that's not a nationality. We should not be calling ourselves African American. Black American is also not a nationality. It's a description of a type of American. It's a type of American, but we're not black. So we shouldn't be calling ourselves Black American, but we shouldn't have any suffix, any prefix. We should not have any prefix in front of the word American, because that modifies the word American. We're just Americans. If there was a modifier, it would be North, because we're in the northern part of America. We are North Americans, or we could just call ourselves Americans. But adding an extra word to the word American, it's indicating that there's other types of Americans. And I go on to state this. It indicates that there can be also Irish Americans and Spanish Americans and African Americans and Nigerian Americans and Chinese Americans. And it's simply not the case. There's Chinese, right? The people from China are Chinese. The people from Europe are European. The people from Scandinavia are Scandinavian. right? How many Nigerian Scandinavians are we talking about? Right? No, people come from their lands and they're just we just identify them as that nationality. This is the only place where we have prefixes in front of the nationality so that everybody in the world could call themselves American, and they call us black. But we're the only Americans. But okay, Moorish American, I have an issue with the ish part of Moorish, which is another it's another conversation. But Moorish in front of American, that's being redundant. American already has the word more in it. MER. It already has the word more in it. It means MER, water, or the people who are brown, or the brown people who are many, more, a lot. The brown people who are many that travel the waters, that are in a land that is surrounded by water. America. Ika is referring to the land. Moors of this land is what America means. So having the word Moorish as a modifier doesn't make any sense. It's being redundant. There's no need for redundancies. Indigenous American. Well, Indigenous American, it's basically implying that there's any other type of American. There's only Indigenous Americans. We don't need the modifier Indigenous. Again, with Native, as if there's any other type of American. We don't need the modifier. Indian. India is in India, right? There's Indians in India. Over here, I mean, you could say that the word Indian is like indigo or something, something along those lines. But again, we don't need a modifier in front of the word American. Aboriginal. Again, we don't need the modifier. And then slave American, or like ADOS, which Norris Shelton started. He started the descendants of American slaves, and then we had a group of two people that stole the name and just changed the words around, and then called it American descendants of slaves instead of descendants of American slaves. Norris Shelton, a colleague or an individual who I've worked with before. So it was stolen from him. That concept was stolen from him and turned into ADOS. And then the guy who, somebody Sanders, I forgot his first name, but the guy who is saying that his name is Tariq Nasheed, which is not a real name. This guy stole that. He stole a stolen concept. He stole ADOS and then made FBA, or whatever, Foundational Black Americans. But I didn't even include that because he just stole slave American, or descendants of American slaves, which was turned into American descendants of slaves, which was turned into Foundational Black American. It's all the same thing. It's descendants of American slaves is what FBA is. We shouldn't be calling ourselves an acronym either, which is, it's stupid. But I'm going to go ahead and allow this to play out. Again, calling us black is a hate crime. The word black is hate speech. So President Trump, you are committing a crime and you are using hate speech, calling me black. And I'm telling you, stop doing it. You see? So I'm going to allow this to play out.
The things that we should be calling ourselves: Black, colored, people of color, Negro, nigger, nigga, melanated, African American, Black American, Moorish American, Indigenous American, Native American, Indian American, Aboriginal American, Slave American. And the reason why is because we're simply American. If we were African American, then there could be Asian Americans, European Americans, African Americans, Australian Americans, etc. Those are the continents. But there's also 195 countries in the world currently. So that would be 195 prefixes before American. You have Chinese American and so on, when there's really just one type of American. And the reason why they want this type of confusion is so that we can't claim to be the Americans. There's no confusion as to who's Chinese or who's East Indian. There's no confusion as to who's Nigerian. And then in addition to the 195 different countries that can be used as a prefix before American, there's also the 8 misnomers that we have as Americans. Going back to this list: African American, Black American, Moorish American, Indigenous American, Native American, Indian American, Aboriginal American, Slave American. We should simply be calling ourselves Americans. Anything else is confusing and allowing for all the other countries, all the other nations to also be American. And then there's, for the Europeans, there's the 2 misnomers, white American or Jewish American, and then plus the 4 continents. So again, with all that total, there are 209 different prefixes, different types of Americans that there can be, if we're African American. But if we're simply American, then there's one American, and there's no confusion as to who we are. So let me go to here, the definitions. So the Noah Webster Dictionary, first edition, the definition of Black: sullen, atrociously wicked.
Hold on, this is important. I'm about to read all the definitions of Black. And again, we are not Black, but these are the reasons, the obvious reason we shouldn't be calling ourselves Black. All the definitions, literally every definition, is a negative definition, the word Black. Every definition is a negative definition. In fact, when you actually total it out, Black means every negative word in the English language. So I'm going to allow this to play out, but I want this to be understood, that we cannot call ourselves Black. And you talk about putting spells on yourself or speaking let's say speaking things into existence. Like if you were to, call your child stupid or call yourself stupid, eventually you're going to start doing stupid stuff, and your child will start doing stupid things. And if you call people Black, they'll start acting Black. They'll start acting out all the definitions of Black. Again, Black is hate speech.
Definitions. So the Noah Webster Dictionary, first edition, the definition of Black: sullen, atrociously wicked, horrible, dismal, mournful, calamitous, destitute of light or whiteness, destitute of all color. Here's another online dictionary, the Merriam-Webster online dictionary: dirty, soiled, absent of light, thoroughly sinister or evil, wicked, condemnation, discredit, heavy, invoking the devil, very sad, gloomy, calamitous, occurrence of disaster, hostility, anger, discontent, sullen, distorted or darkened by anger, subject to boycott, conducted so as to appear to originate within an enemy country and designed to weaken enemy morale, grim, distorted, grotesque, covert. And it continues with the Cambridge Online Dictionary for Black. Without hope, bad, evil, avoid. The dictionary.com definition of Black: lacks hue and brightness, enveloped in darkness, soiled, stained with dirt, pessimistic, gloomy, dismal, deliberately harmful, unexcusable, boding ill, sullen, hostile, threatening, without any moral quality or goodness, evil, wickedness, evil, wicked, censor, disgrace, liability to punishment, disaster, misfortune, grotesque, morbid, or unpleasant aspects of life, undesirable, substandard, potentially dangerous, illegal, underground, deliberately false, intentionally misleading, opposite to white, boycott, ban. Oxford Learning Dictionary, Oxford Learners Dictionary. This is another online dictionary. The definition of Black: very dirty, covered with dirt, full of anger or hate, without hope, very depressing, evil or immoral, dealing with unpleasant or terrible things such as murder in a humorous way. Dictionary.com again. Other words for Black. I'm going to skip one and go to what's numbered 3. Dirty, dingy, sad, depressing, somber, doleful, mourning, funeral, disastrous, calamitous, sinful, inhuman, fiendish, devilish, infernal, monstrous, atrocious, horrible, nefarious, treacherous, traitorous, villainous. Okay.
I'm not even done yet. That's not even all the definitions. But can you see can you see what I'm saying? How does that make you feel so far with those definitions? What again, you're hearing the definitions of Black. You're hearing the definitions of Black, and none of them fit who I am. None of them fit any person who's an American. That's not who they are. It doesn't fit any person who has melanin, who is a non-albino. It doesn't fit any person in existence. This is not what you call a group of people. This is hate speech. And again, President Trump, you are committing a crime by calling me Black and by calling my people Black. Stop calling me Black. I'm going to continue on. Look at the rest of these definitions.
Those are the online dictionary definitions. Let's go to what's written in the books. Looking up the definition of Black. It's right here. Okay, let's see. Full of anger, filled with anger or hostility, hopeless, so depressing as to end all hope, evil or associated with evil, dirty, covered with mud, soil, or any other dark substance. Okay, we'll continue down. Funny and I just had to look up this word. I think it's macabre. Funny and macabre. That's what it is. Funny and macabre. Dealing with very serious things in a humorous and often macabre way, seriously bad or misfortunate, causing or associated with severely bad conditions or misfortune, dishonorable, extremely dishonorable, and deserving of the most serious criticism, clandestine, carried out in the utmost secrecy. Let's see, continue down. Okay. That was this dictionary. Gonna look at the source. Okay, hold on, let me find. There we go. Okay. Having little or no light, covered or stained with, or as if with dirt or other impurities, dirty, filthy, grimy, grubby, smutty, soiled, unclean, uncleanly, morally objectable, bad, evil, immoral, iniquitous, peccant, reprobate, sinful, vicious, wicked, wrong, dark and depressing, bleak, blue, cheerless, dark, desolate, dismal, dreary, gloomy, glum, joyless, somber, tenebrific, characterized by intense ill will or spite, despiteful, evil, hateful, malevolent, malicious, malign, malignant, mean, nasty, poisonous, spiteful, venomous, vicious, wicked, slang, bitchy. Okay. All right. The definition of black. There we are. All right. Gloomy, grim, dismal, somber, dim, calamitous, sullen, hostile, dark, furious, angry, threatening, evil, wicked, bad, nefarious. Okay. Those are the definitions of Black. We should not be calling ourselves Black. We're Americans.
My mic is muted. I don't know how long my mic was muted, but I'm not sharing the correct screen. Let me go back and share the correct screen so that we're watching the same thing. Let's see. Get back to that screen where President Trump is speaking. Where are you? You are here. There you are, Trump. So I'm going to back it up and listen to him commit a crime again using hate speech, misidentifying us as Black people.
I say, yeah, we have a little bit of a crime problem, and we don't have a crime problem in Washington anymore. And the mayor has been very helpful, and the police commission has been very helpful, and it's been a great team. And I would love to have Governor Pritzker call me. I'd gain respect for him and say, we do have a problem, and we'd love you to send in the troops, because you know what? The people, they have to be protected. I saw today on one of your networks, not a friendly network, except really the opposite, I would say, very unfriendly network. And they interviewed about 12 people on this morning. Most of them were African-American, they were Black. And they were saying, please, please, please let the president send it. These were people from Chicago. Please, we need help. We need help. We can't walk outside. We're petrified. If the governor of Illinois would call me up, I would love to do it. Now, we're going to do it anyway. We have the right to do it because I have an obligation to protect this country. And that includes Baltimore. I saw where Governor Moore was asking me to take a walk down the street of Baltimore. Well, Baltimore is a very unsafe.
Okay, I'm muted, but okay. Did you catch that? He just called us Black and African-American, and then he said Governor Moore from Baltimore did X, Y, Z. This is all in the same breath or the next sentence. The way he's using his language is to call us all three terms. He's calling us Black, African-American, and more. But when he's using the word more, it sounds like he's not calling us more. But because he used it right next to him calling us Black and misidentifying us as Black and misidentifying us African-American, he's using the word more so that the people who are in the know, or the people who are aware of the language he's using, we'll be able to catch that he knows that we're Moors. So he talks about Governor Moore from Baltimore so that he can call us Moors. So Trump, if you're going to refer to us, you'll refer to us as Americans or refer to us as Moors. But I'd rather you just refer to us as Americans, because we're the Americans and you're not. We're not Black. You call us Black, you're committing a crime. That's hate speech. And President Trump, I know you don't want to be a criminal, right?
Please let the president American, 12 people on this morning. Most of them were African-American, they were Black. And they were saying, please, please, please let the president send it. These were people from Chicago. Please, we need help. We need help. We can't walk outside. We're petrified. If the governor of Illinois would call me up, I would love to do it. Now, we're going to do it anyway. We have the right to do it because I have an obligation to protect this country. And that includes Baltimore. I saw where Governor Moore was asking me to take a walk down the street of Baltimore. Well, Baltimore is a very unsafe place. It's rated number 4 in the city, one of the most unsafe places anywhere in the world. But we took care. This was a beautiful thing that happened in Washington because we showed that it could be done. And this wasn't just sending big, strong guys, and they are big and they are strong. We had a great decision from the Supreme Court that had to do with sort of talent. It had to do with you are put down based on.
Okay, so again, he called us black, called us African American. Then he talked about Governor Moore of Baltimore. This play on words. I want to point that out again, and we're going to allow this to continue. Really, he said all the important things that he had to say in this speech. So I might skip through some of this. I'm going to try to remember where he's at and let him speak. So wait, we are at the 25-minute mark into this this broadcast. Excuse me, into his particular announcement. I'm going to allow this to play. I might skip a little bit.
On merit, you can hire based on merit. So merit for a soldier or for a policeman is strong, physically fit, something, having a certain ability, not a person that is woke and got the job through woke, but wasn't strong enough to lift a gun out of the holster, et cetera, et cetera. No, I looked at
that is important. Hire people who can do the job. Quit hiring women as the military. That's it's absolutely silly. Or hiring women as the security. That's silly. It's just silly. I'm not even going to expound on that.
police. As you know, last week I went over, we had a meeting there had to be 300 people, and they were all very impressive looking. And when the bad guys see them, they're not going to do a thing. And so I'm very proud of Washington. It serves as a template, and we're going to do it elsewhere. But Chicago is certainly going to be high. I would love to have him call. I would love the governor of Illinois. I'd be honored to take his call. All he has to do is say, sir, we need help. It's out of control. And everyone knows it is. He's not kidding anyone. I would love to have, I would say, Governor Moore call, because I watched him over the weekend trying to explain that Baltimore, what they need is housing. No, they don't need housing. They need to get rid of the criminals. These are hardcore criminals.
But who are the criminals? The occupying force is the criminal. The occupying force that keeps calling us black people of no land is the criminal, and calling themselves the actual Americans. That's the criminal. And that's the reason why there's a lot of Americans committing crimes. Because there's an occupying force here that has made it such an environment for these crimes to be committed, and made it such an environment that nobody can stop it without breaking a law that some foreigner has put in place. Trump, foreigner.
We took many people off the streets of Washington, D.C. They're hardcore. They're not going to be good. In 10 years, in 20 years, in 2 years, they're going to be.
And I did speak quite firmly when I said foreigner. And I don't have a problem with people who are foreign to the land. I have a problem with people who say they are American and they're actually foreign. That is a problem, because it's simply not true. And more so, it's a crime because you're continuing the lie that allows you to occupy this area against natural law, against the law of the people of this land, against the American law. Trump and your nation. You're not from here, America, and I'm going to allow him to continue to speak.
Criminals. They were born to be criminals. Frankly, they were born to be criminals. And
what does that mean?
They're tough and mean, and they'll cut your throat, and they won't even think about it the next day. They won't even remember that they did it.
I was going to say something about this, but again, this guy, I don't know what it is, but he's distracting.
And we're not going to have those people. Washington, D.C. is now a safe zone. It's a safe place. And you can walk, Katie, you can walk right down the street with, by the way, one of the biggest human beings I've ever seen, which is her husband. He was a football player for like 11 years in the NFL. He's a big person. But big doesn't mean anything when they have guns and when they have knives and everything else that they have, right? But you can walk right down the street, even by yourself, and you're totally safe. Washington, D.C. is a great thing. Yes, ma'am, please.
calling on Democratic leaders across the country to work with you on crime. Do you see your efforts here in DC, including, for example, working with Mayor Bowser here as a model for bringing more bipartisanship in matters not only with crime, but also issues that matter to everyday American people's lives?
So Mayor Bowser's been great. She could have taken the thing well, and then after I clean it up, they'll take credit for it. You know what they do is they take credit, like going on. Good handle. You saw what was happening out there. And remember, we have the Olympics, we have the World Cup.
I'm skipping a little bit.
And we did it. Well, he didn't want us there. We have to make good. Every single one. The closest was the Marines. What about the
Skip.
If for some reason somebody wanted to be politically correct, I actually think it's unpolitically correct. I think politically correct is to approve it, because there's nothing so popular as what's happened to our country. Our country is doing so well, but we had a liberal court gave us a very shocking ruling. And that ruling is basically saying that the trillions of dollars that are pouring into our country, putting us in a position like no country is anywhere in the world, that they'd like to see us that taken away. By the way, a lot of the people behind that lawsuit, that particular, are from foreign countries. I might add.
Who else is from a foreign country? Everybody on this screen that is not me is from a foreign country. Not a single one of them can survive here in America without sunscreen and chemtrails. The chemtrails that create clouds that block the sun. And that cause rain to come from those clouds, cooling the temperature of the environment. When he's talking about foreign people, he's also including himself.
There's a video that is circulating online now of the White House where a window is open to the residents upstairs and somebody's thrown a big bag out the window. Have you seen this?
No, that's probably AI
It is AI.
generated. So actually, you can't open the windows. You know why? They're all heavily armored and bulletproof.
So that's a fake video.
Well, it's got to be, because I know every window up there. The last place I'd be doing it is that, because there's cameras all over the place, right? Including yours. No, but every window, I've never seen a window that's, in fact, my wife was complaining about it the other day. She said, love to have a little fresh air come in, but you can't. They're bulletproof. And number one, they're sealed. And number two, each window weighs about 600 pounds. You have to be pretty strong to open them up. No, that has to be, where was the window? Let me see.
He goes on to show him the picture and such and such.
And one of the problems we have with AI, it's both good and bad. If something happens really bad, just blame AI. But also they create things, it works both ways. If something happens that's really bad, maybe I'll have to just blame AI. But there's truth to it, because I see so many phony things. I saw something as I was growing up, from the time I was a baby till now. I said, who did that? It was AI generated. So it's a little bit scary, to be honest with you. But those windows are all very heavily.
AI is certainly a concerning development. Beneficial in some sense.
And we never did. I did a lot during my first term, but then we had COVID and we had to focus on other things. You couldn't be tariffing Italy, Spain, France, as they.
Okay, he's talking about tariffs. Let's hear what he said about tariffs.
For our country to Obama, very liberal court. Well, it certainly is. It certainly
In
is.
fact, it was along ideological lines, 7-4.
Well, except that we actually got one of the Obama judges that was appointed by President Obama voted in favor of the tariffs, because he felt it was imperative for our country to thrive and survive even. And I gave him credit. I said, you know what? That took a lot of courage for him to do it, because you don't see that often.
So my question is, I suspect you're going to appeal that all the way to the Supreme Court.
Well, we already have. Yeah. In fact, we're doing something else. We're going to be going to the Supreme Court, we think, tomorrow, because we need an early decision. I mean, look, the financial fabric of our country, we're a rich, incredible country right now, and we're able to, other countries.
The thing I really appreciate about Trump is, again, he's an intelligent person that is not trying to hide that he's intelligent. He doesn't act stupid. I appreciate that. He acts, he moves. He actually is operating as a leader, even though he's of a foreign entity, occupying force that is here illegally. But I do admire the leadership.
Countries used tariffs on us for years, and we never did. I did a lot during my first term, but then we had COVID and we had to focus on other things. You couldn't be tariffing Italy, Spain, France, as they were dying by the thousands and millions. But we did with China, and China paid us billions and billions of dollars. And I started the process, but then I had to end it a little bit because of COVID. We focused on that. But no, it's a very important decision. And frankly, if they make the wrong decision, it will be a devastation for our country. We've taken in trillions of dollars. And by the way, all these countries signed agreements. As an example, they're all happy. Everybody's happy. But some whack job put in a lawsuit. It went before a very liberal court, and the liberal court ruled, it was 11, they ruled 7-4, with one of the most liberal of them all voting in our favor because they're patriots. I think I give tremendous credit to that judge. And now it's going to the Supreme Court. Now we're going to be asking for early admittance. We're going tomorrow, and we're going to ask for an expedited ruling because when you look at the stock market's down today, the stock market's down because of that, because the stock market needs the tariffs. They want the tariffs. If you look at AI, all of those, all of that money that's going to be invested, trillions and trillions of dollars, the biggest thing, bigger than the internet, I suspect. It's the internet plus 3 or 4 other things combined. We are leading very substantially with AI. We're leading because of tariffs. We're leading.
Yeah. What's being called artificial intelligence or this computing capability is very important.
Because of talent, and this is where they'd like to be. But without the tariffs, we wouldn't have a chance because we wouldn't be able to protect those investments of the companies coming in. So if you took away tariffs, we could end up being a third world country. That's how.
North America will never be a third world country. This area will never, ever be a third world country. I've been to so-called third world countries, and it's a bunch of dirt roads and dirty water. And, and they can do more to build up those countries, but that's not America. That's not North America. It's not a third world country. We'll never be dirt roads and dirt water or dirty water. We can't become a third world country. But I do hear his sentiments.
That's how big the ruling. So we're asking for an expedited ruling.
As a backstop to that, President, you have a Republican-controlled Congress. You control the House. You control the Senate.
Yeah, but we don't have 60 votes. We don't have 60 votes. I'd love to do that. Oh, if we had.
There is no place on earth like America. I mean, unless there's other continents that we haven't been privy to the knowledge of, but America, or North America, the area that we're identifying as the United States, is literally the best place on earth. And there's a reason why everybody in the world is here in North America. It's because it's the best place to be. You travel out of the country and tell me if you think something different.
We had 60 senators. If we got the 60 votes, we would get them. But we need 60 votes, and we need, a certain number in the House. I think we'd get, I don't know, we have about 5 of them here. Would everybody agree with me on tariffs? Without tariffs, we're a different country. We have taken in so much money. And here's the thing. We signed a deal with Japan. They're paying us hundreds of billions of dollars. We signed a deal with South Korea. We signed a deal with the European Union. We signed a deal with Europe. And those countries are paying us $950 billion. And they're happy about it. They're okay. As one of them said, it's amazing that we got away with it so long. One of my friends, a leader of one of the countries, and they're fine with it. They all signed. If that ruling ever went against us, I guess we'd have to give back hundreds of billions. We would have to give trillions and trillions of dollars back to countries that have been ripping us off for the last 35 years. And I can't imagine it happening. On a legal basis, they have no legal basis whatsoever. But on a common sense basis, it would destroy America. Okay.
We talked about controlling the sky. On Sunday, the satellite signal of Ursula von der Leyen's plane was led.
With Ursula? Well, she had an interesting event. She's a tremendous woman. And so what are you asking me about her?
NATO's concerned about it too.
NATO is concerned about it. Well, nobody knows where it came from, but they did take away her ability to use a phone.
Mr. President, reducing the tariffs on India from 50%.
What does that mean?
Are you considering taking away some of the tariffs that you've imposed on India?
No.
No, we get along with India very well. But India has, you have to understand, for many years, it was a one-sided relationship. Only now, since I came along, and because of the power that we have with tariffs, India was charging us tremendous tariffs, about the highest in the world. They were about the highest in the world, number one. And we therefore weren't doing much business with India, but they were doing business with us because we weren't charging them foolishly. We weren't charging them. So they would send in massive, everything they made, they'd send it in, pour it into our country. Therefore, it wouldn't be made here, which is a negative. But
That is a negative.
we would not send in anything because they were charging us 100% tariffs. And, I'll give you an example. Harley Davidson couldn't sell into India. There was a 200% tariff on a motorcycle. So what happens? Harley Davidson went to India and built a motorcycle plant.
Oh, he was about to get to something important about, right. So the tariffs were so high that you couldn't produce this automotive. You couldn't produce the Harley Davidsons into India. And then, so he's about to say that if countries bring their automotive production here to America, there wouldn't be tariffs on those automotive industries that come here, or those automotive companies that come here, which is a very important thing, and is good for the United States, as we call it, or in North America.
Plant. And now they don't have to pay tariffs. Same thing as us. So what we're doing is literally thousands of companies are coming into the U.S., car companies, AI, but more traditionally car companies. We have so many car company factories under construction or being designed right now. And they're coming from China, they're coming from Mexico, I must tell you, and they're coming from Canada. A lot of them coming from Canada. But they're coming into our country because they want to build here. And they want to build here for two reasons. Number one, they'd like to be here. And number two, the tariffs are protecting them. And number three, they want to avoid paying tariffs. When they build their cars here, they don't have any tariffs to pay. When you build here, you don't have any tariffs.
Yes, that is excellent. And so I want to say to the African nations that I have dealings with, bring your car company here to America. We'll speak later on that to whom I'm speaking to. Bring your car company here to America, and it will allow for you to have a market that you've never you haven't had before. You won't have tariffs. You'll be able to compete with all these other entities all these other car companies that exist, all these other nations that exist, but you don't have a friend here in North America. I am your friend.
Mr. President, in light of the Minnesota shooting last week, the Department of Homeland Security is now awarding more than $100 million to hundreds of faith organizations across the country to help them ramp up security. What's your vision for further protection?
Hundreds of millions of dollars to faith organizations for security? What?
The Minnesota shooting last week, the Department of Homeland Security is now awarding more than $100 million to hundreds of faith organizations across the country to help them ramp up security. What's your vision for further protecting religious liberty across the country amid
It seems like she could have not, just not have spoken.
incidents of threats?
So religious liberty is so important.
But is it?
We're talking about every religion now, and we're doing things on that nobody else has ever done. And we're going to be having a big announcement in about 2 weeks on that question. Yeah, please.
On Space Commit, sir, are you concerned that people may not be willing to relocate from Colorado to Alabama?
No, I'm not worried. We'll get somebody else.
Colorado.
I mean, the problem with Colorado is they have a very corrupt voting system. I have so many friends in Colorado. Anytime you have mail-in voting, you have corrupt elections. Very simple. It's very simple. Even Jimmy Carter said it with his commission. They set up a commission with him and Scoop Jackson and some people, highly regarded people. And they said the finding was, if you have mail-in voting, you will have corrupt elections. Well, your radical left governor decided that he was going to have all mail-in voting in Colorado. Once you have all
mail-in voting, you have corrupt elections. Yes.
Mail-in voting. And for whatever reason, the Democrats cheat. And they cheat like, they're not stupid. That's the only thing. They're no good on policy. They're no good on management. They're no good at government, but they're great at cheating. And they stick together too. I give them credit for sticking together.
Oh man, that reminds me of that South Park episode where Cartman is teaching the children how to cheat like white people, so-called white people, or like Europeans. That was a funny episode.
Please.
Obviously, this is a big win for national security, moving this to Alabama. We all can agree with that.
Big.
Is there any idea of the economic impact this has on the state and on that local area?
Katie, do you want to answer that?
Look, I mean, this.
Please go.
Do I want to skip?
This is going to be tremendous. I mean, the state of Alabama, what we've seen through this process is the worst of Washington. We've seen politics get in the way of what is best for the warfighter, what's best for national security. And the state of Alabama is about to show the country the best among us. So we know the economic impact is going to be tremendous. There at Redstone Arsenal, we're proud to house everything from the FBI to headquarters there for material command to a number of things. We obviously have NASA with Marshall Space Flight Center. And so this naturally fits within. When you look at the decision matrix that they placed in front of us, that's why we ranked so high, is because we have the resources necessary and the ability to build out quickly to meet the needs in front of us. As far as economic impact, it would be tremendous. Does anybody have an exact?
Right. Does anybody else, can anybody else finish my statement? Because her, I'm speaking as if I'm her. I mean, why not just have somebody speak who knows what they're saying?
To build out quickly to meet the needs in front of us. As far as economic impact, it would be tremendous. Does anybody have an exact number? 1,600 jobs. With 3,000 spent off. Look at this. This is teamwork right here. So we are really proud, and the people of Alabama are ready to get to work.
Maybe I'm being too difficult on this individual.
And I've got a housing question, if you could, just for a second, Mr.
Yeah,
President.
please.
Owning a home and going about the American dream seems like it's out of touch for a lot of Americans. Just
Yeah.
recently, you pushed out a statement about addressing an emergency housing situation.
That's right. We're thinking about doing that.
Yeah, can you just?
Well, we need a little help from the Fed. We have a man named Jerome Too Late Powell. You probably heard of him. He's too late. He's way too late. And the economy is so strong that it's pushing through that. Normally, it would have been much tougher, but we're doing so well that we're pushing through it. But it makes it very hard for people to get mortgages because too late is too late. Very simple. He's too late. And probably political, whatever. He wasn't too late before the election.
I do enjoy his comedic personality. This guy is hilarious.
The election, he was cutting rates, right? Because he was hoping that, I guess, Biden would get in, or that Kamala would. He was a big Biden guy. Explain that one. And then he was a Kamala person, but he was hoping, I guess, she'd win. I guess, I don't know. It didn't work out too well. But yeah, we need a very serious cut. You know, I think that if you look back many decades ago, the United States was always the lowest, even if they were doing badly. The United States was, because without the United States, everything in the world would die. It's true. It's so powerful. It's so big. And I made it really big in the first 4 years. Then it started to degenerate with what
Everything wouldn't die, but I hear him.
this Biden administration did. But we built it up to a level that I never thought we could be at this quickly. We're the hottest. We're the best financially. The money coming in is so big.
We are the hottest. We are the best. I agree.
Because of tariffs and other things, but because of tariffs. Tariff gets us even those other things. Plus, it gets us great negotiating. I settled 7 wars, and numerous of those wars were because of trade, and numerous of the trade deals that I made were because of tariffs.
And I've said before, all wars are because of trade. You know, amongst other things.
Even those other things. Plus, it gets us great negotiating. I settled 7 wars, and numerous of those wars were because of trade. And numerous of the trade deals that I made were because of tariffs. It gives you a great negotiating ability. If that ability were taken away from us by a liberal court acting on essentially foreign nations, asking to get help from the United States government, when they've been doing this to us for 40 years, that's why we have $38 trillion in debt. We won't have.
Maybe most wars are about trade.
Have it for long if they let us. If they allow us to do what everybody knows we should be able to do. Yeah, please.
Are his top teeth fake and his bottom teeth real? I don't know.
Another Biden action that you're now reversing is that you signed a deal last week to make federal buildings adopt and embrace classical architecture styles again. Can you talk to us about why you do that, and also what's your vision?
Well, we want to see beautiful buildings. Now, you know, it's in the eye of the beholder. I've seen architectural reviews over the years. I'm an expert at it.
I've seen some bad architecture in other countries, and to where there's no conformity and everybody is doing their own thing, and it looks wild, you know. So even though the first time I heard this, I was like, yeah, I was wondering about that question, but But the more I thought about it, I've been places where, no one stepped in to actually force a little more conformity to the architectural designs in the areas. And you can have chaos with bad architecture.
Gotten a lot of great reviews, but I've seen buildings that I didn't think were very good get great reviews, and I've seen great buildings get bad reviews. So, but it's just a standard. We want to have a good standard. We're building something here. For 150 years, they wanted a ballroom at the White House. We're doing something at the highest level using great architects and all. And, it's very exciting. But we have a lot of interesting things happening architecturally in DC. And DC is like a different place. And, even the contractor said, sir, we walked down today, we feel like much safer. It's like a different place. Washington, DC is great. Now we're going to also beautify it. We're going to put a topping on the roads. We're not going to rip them apart and take 4 years to build a road that was exactly the same by the time you build it. But we're going to put toppings. We're going to put new medians in. We're going to get the graffiti off. We're going to put tiles.
It just seems like this guy doesn't belong in the picture. Like he keeps doing stuff. Like he's bouncing up and down and looking up and right and left and odd, and his suit is different, and
up in the tunnels where the tiles are missing. We'll do the whole tunnel instead of, a little area where you see new tiles, old tiles that never look too good, but they could use it. They've been up 50 years. They've served their duty. But we're going to make this within about a 20-mile radius from the White House. We're going to have this place spick and span. It's going to be crime-free, and it's going to be spick and span. You'll be proud of Washington again. Go ahead, please.
Sir, China's having a massive military parade that President Putin and Kim Jong-un will be attending. Do you interpret that as a challenge to this? And are you concerned at all about those countries trying to be some sort of counterweight?
Not at all. China needs us, and I have a very good relationship with President Xi, as you know, but China needs us much more than we need them. No, I don't see that at all, no. And I had actually a very good meeting with President Putin a couple of weeks ago. We'll see if anything comes out of it. If it doesn't, we'll take a different stance.
March today in California ruled that the deployment of National Guard troops to Los Angeles was illegal. Do you have any response?
Well, it was a radical left judge, but very importantly, what did you not tell me in that question or statement that you made? Pretty much of a statement, I think.
Well, I was asking for the response.
No, you didn't say what the judge said, though. The judge said, but you can leave the 300 people that you already have in place. They can continue to be in place. That's all we need. But why didn't you put that as part of your statement? Because the same judge ruled exactly as you said, except the judge said that you could leave the 300 people that you already have in place. They can stay, they can remain, they can do what they have to do. Thank you very much, everybody. We appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. And that was his announcement. I think he is an excellent orator. He speaks very well. He's very composed. He is a strong leader. I do appreciate his leadership. I'd rather him as the president than as opposed to the other individuals that we had an option of. And it just happens to be that he is the president of a foreign entity in the United States. Or excuse me, the United States is the foreign entity that he is the president of, and the foreign entity is on top of America. And again, that's the issue. And I do want to, the takeaway that I have for Trump is quit calling me black people. Call me American. Quit calling yourself American, Trump. And don't allow the people who are not American, all these Europeans, quit allowing them to call themselves American. They are not American. They are not white. They are European. And if we want to be biologically correct, they're albinos, and that's okay to have albinism. That's an okay situation. But you're not American, and you're not white as this group of people, and it's okay. No ill will. So anyway, I do appreciate everybody who has come out. I did want to play one more time, just as an outro. I wanted to play Let's see, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? I don't see where it is. I think it's this screen. It's this screen here. I have up a song that I was learning or had to play, so I had to listen to it. Let's go back. And we'll start from here.
They call us black people. Okay, I'm an American. They call us black people, but black people just means that we're a people of no land and no nation. So
Yeah,
I'll get back. I've said this before. People will come from 10,000 miles away, 10,000 miles away, come here to America and be like, where's all the Americans?
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll be like, hey, I'm an American. Like, no, you are a black people. Like, man, who are you? Okay, but anyway.
Drumpf was also speaking, I might not have the tab up. Drumpf was also speaking about him doing a mass deportation. I can just look it up real quick. And he said that it's an invasion and that it's going to be the largest deportation. It's going to be the largest deportation in American history, right? But he didn't include himself. Yeah, get the fuck out of here. Hold on one sec.
Reservations that you've approved, you, sir, in your great wisdom have approved. I will tell you right now, they don't look like Indians to me, and they don't look like the Indians. Now, maybe we say politically correct or not politically correct. They don't look like Indians to me, and they don't look like Indians to Indians. And a lot of people are laughing at it, and you're telling how.
All right. So I just wanted to let you hear what he had to say. Wanted to let you hear what he had to say about the people who are called Americans, or what they call Native Americans, or what they misclassify as Indians. So he was saying that the people who are currently classified as Native Americans do not look like the American people, the people who are the indigenous people of America. And this is important because there's a difference between who is American and who is not.
The other thing is, I'd like to know how many of these people are even Indians to begin with, because I've looked at them. And I have to tell you something, they don't look like Indians to me. And I've told a couple of them who came into my office, I said, I believe I have more Indian blood in my veins than you have, and I have none. And they laugh. They think it's a joke.
All right, let me show you what Mr. Obama, who is not an American, also said. Just give me a moment. Let me show you who the people who say that they're the indigenous Americans, what they look like. Hold on. Can you see this person? Who the fuck is this?
Okay, Mark Charles, yeah.
This person looks nothing like me.
The in our Navajo.
Do you see this guy? You see that guy? He says he's a Native American. This guy right here with the hat.
You're very, very special people.
Slow this down a little bit. All right, talk.
You were here long before any of us were here. Although we have a representative in Congress who they say was here a long time ago. They call her Pocahontas. But you know what? I like you.
You see these two people? These two people have albinism. They're on the spectrum, the albinism spectrum. They would be considered albinoid. You see Donald Trump? He is a full albino. You see how similar they look in complexion? They can't survive here in this climate. They did not come from this place. Let me let them. All right. And I am proud to be an American. I am very proud to be an American. Let me play the intro of this. Blah, blah. I'm a proud American. I am a proud American. I am a proud American. How you doing, Dr. Pruitt? It's good to see you. Always, always. And the very last thing I want to play, it was somewhere around 25 minutes in, where he called President Trump. President Trump continues to make the mistake of calling and misidentifying a whole group of people as Black people and committing a hate crime using hate speech, misidentifying us as Black people. But he makes it clear that he knows that we're Moors. And he knows that we're Americans, as I've played in the other clips in his earlier years, where he was telling the Europeans who are pretending to be Native Americans, he's telling them that they have no Native American blood. They have no Indian blood, or what he's saying is that the Europeans that we often call $5 Indians that are cosplaying as indigenous Americans, he is saying that they have no indigenous American blood, and that in fact, Donald Trump, has as much, he was saying, Donald Trump, he was saying that he has more indigenous blood, more indigenous American blood. He has more indigenous American blood than the people who are cosplaying indigenous Americans. And he said he has no indigenous American blood. That's how indigenous American the Europeans who are acting and pretending to be Native Americans are. They have no indigenous American blood, as Trump is saying. He knows very well that we are the Americans, but maybe there's a force that is stopping him from admitting that. But for sure, you're going to have to stop calling us Black people. Trying to find where he called us Black people. There we are. There we are. There we are. Again, him misidentifying us as African American and misidentifying us as Black people. This is a crime, and it must discontinue. It must be stopped. You must stop doing this. Okay? Trump and anybody else committing this crime, a hate crime of calling us Black people. You know good and damn well we are not Black people. You know that we are the indigenous Americans. We are the Americans. Okay? So let's hear him say this one more time. He's going to call us Black people. He's going to call us African American. And then the next couple of sentences, he's going to talk about a Moor from Baltimore, right? And he put all that together so that it's a way of, in these secret societies, they speak in all this coded language that becomes rather obvious when you're looking for it. He's saying that we're the Moors. He's well aware that America means land of the Moors. He's well aware that even the Moors in Europe, there were already Moors here in America. That's what America means, land of the Moors. Even the Moors in Europe were brought here to America or traveled here to America and have been traveling here to America, you know, for the entire time that that people have existed. They're called Moors. They moor the sea. They travel the sea. We're Moors. We've been here. We're everywhere. We are the people everywhere. Okay. We are the natural state. We are the brown people. We're not black. It's a hate crime to call us that. So let's hear him talk. Yeah, blah blah blah. He knows who we are, and he's stating it, rather emphatically. But I am going to go ahead and jump off this live again. Thank you all for coming here. I do appreciate everybody who's spent time with me and everybody who's going to watch this on the replay. Oh, yes, and Dr. Pruitt, I do appreciate you being here. Yes. Yes. Oh, there is a time lag for some reason. Hopefully the broadcast was able to be communicated where people can understand what I was saying, and it wasn't too much of a distraction. But all right, thank you all. I hope you're all well.